Good morning to you this Monday, beautiful Monday morning. It is a bit cold, but of course, it is still beautiful. And this is Afamas Media, and I am your host, Christine Mutindi. Today being the 5th of December, and of course, I know we are trending on Twitter right now with the Mandamano, but we'll get to discuss that a little bit later on. Mandamano, we know what it is. Cherera 4, and please be careful and take care of our soil, because today we are also celebrating World Soil Day. If you don't know what that is, we will get to tell you a little bit about it and discuss more and more about it. And I am never alone. I never walk alone. I'm never in studio alone. And I'm joined by Daktari. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I hope you hear me well. I hope niko salama kwa sauti yangu.
Yes, now we will get to talk about, we'll celebrate World Soil Day, and of course, with the Mandamano, I don't know on your end, what do you think?
No, your maandamano is just a political gimmick. Nothing. Right now, people are so focused on moving on, yeah? So maandamano is not going to have anything whatsoever when it comes to the growth and development of our nation. So what we are thinking is going further ahead in terms of development. So hiyo tu ni maneno tu. So don't actually worry you at all. Hatujafika ile wakati wa nini Monday. Monday morning, Monday, every Monday watu walikuwa wanaenda maandamano. Sasa hiyo watu wamechoka. Hiyo si tushtue.
I'm sure watu wamechoka. I have an interesting fact here, Daktari. So there was an online survey about GMO, and more than 60% of the people who took the survey, actually 63.8%, they said that GMO should not be allowed in Kenya, and 20%, the 20% said the government should allow GMO products to come to Kenya. Now we have 22% who think that GMO will solve the food shortage in Kenya. But now here is the bit that I find very interesting. We have over 70% of these people know what GMO is. But we have another 13.8% who have no idea what GMO is.
You see, the problem is misinformation and lack of knowledge. There's a lot of misinformation on what is called GMO. Even the most educated people in Kenya, even the educated people in Kenya have actually like, sorry. Even the most educated people in Kenya are having problems of trying to know what, getting the real definition of GMO. So what has really spoiled everything is how media is portraying GMO. We look from our discussion in our last point. We were talking about effects of GMO. What is people are thinking that they'll grow wings, just the misinformation, like those. Have you ever gone to unasikianga vitu vinaitwa story ya mogoka? Usikianga story.
Yes,
people will dwell in issues so much that you even forget the little positive thing. No, mama kusengenyana. Rain.
Yes.
Hiyo ndo the lies on. Alichelewa kwa sababu huyu ameanza kuchelewa siku hizi, and maybe that is the talk. Sorry to all the mamas who say that.
Yes.
But that is what people are talking about. There's a lot of misinformation. As much as we know there are a little bit of 1 or 2, 3 concerns about GMO,
yes.
But a few things have to be clear on record that yes, we might have this issue, but with GMO, there are some advantages that we can really help a few things. You see, we are the same people who are crying food shortage here, and we know that right now the government is desperate to try to sort out the issue of food shortage. So my 2 cents is we really need to see a solution, a long-term solution to the issue of food security. Not that I'm saying that we should wholesomely accept GMO, but we should be we should move with care when embracing GMO technology.
What about we also have this 10.8% who say that they have heard, not that they are sure, they have just heard that if GMO is allowed in Kenya, then local farmers are not going to be able to sell their maize products in Kenya. We also have that margin also, that group as well.
That's where the issue is. It's just why I'm saying all this GMO debate is very political, seriously political. Why? Because there are these farmers who right now are allegedly hoarding maize, waiting for that when they will remove the maize and prices will have skyrocketed. Now the government is trying to counter such moves. So because of that, they put a lot of politics inside there. Let's let the truth be told, yeah. Until when we start depending on, until when we'll be having very expensive maize or food or flour, yet we can be able to counter that by importing to cut the. We used to say it was shortage, yeah. Okay, if we cut down the shortage, yeah, what we are doing is stabilizing the price, and that is good to the Kenyan mwananchi, as long as price of maize, the way we sell maize, or the standard set for maize price to remain the same. What they want is that price of maize equal juu, it remains high, so that they can reap in the profit. See, the moment they're bringing rice, not rice, I mean maize from other parts of the world, necessarily GMO. But I think, from Congo.
But I think, Daktari, I think they also have a right. I feel them, because imagine me, a farmer, I have grown my maize, I have taken care of it, and then I'm told about GMO. I think they also have a right of holding back so that they get good prices.
What is it? Is if you're selling your maize, let's say at 3,500 per bag, yeah? If you're selling at 3,500, yeah?
Yes.
And then you get this maize coming in, that will reach price. What is your concern? What is your worry? You still sell your maize as nobody, as wamekata kuuza mahindi yoyote. Government said gave people 72 hours to sell, to bring whatever it may have, bring it for we buy. Did people do that? No. Why? Ask yourself why. They don't like this. No, we are not going to buy yours because it's maize that has come from India, or has come from Congo, has come from where. They just said, bring your maize. You see, the problem is people want to hoard maize until prices start going up. That's when you start realizing people are removing maize. Right now, you're told people are, remove your maize, sell your maize. We've not refused to sell maize, to buy your maize. But
okay, now I understand. So the issue is the government is not refusing to buy the maize. The farmers are just holding back.
they're holding back, and that's where the problem is.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's where the problem is. The farmers are, they were told, bring maize so that we can be able to purchase. What
Lakini
is
pia
happening?
daktari, hii deadline ya up until February, isn't that too short? Like, if the farmers want to sell, I mean, the government should also come out and tell the farmers as well, we are not going to stop buying from you entirely. We're just adding into the stock.
Yeah, you see, yeah, status quo change. Yeah, if you're a maize farmer, you're maize. Forget about the politics and whatnot. Go take. If somebody, like I saw in a video, somebody was complaining, oh, he has so much maize and he doesn't know where to take it. I mean, really, 21st century, where you do maize and you don't know where to get maize, it must be, there are a lot of politics into this.
Yes.
Surely. And we were discussing about cooperative last time. This is where cooperatives come.
Yes.
You see, you come up with one voice. If you have your maize, you have one silo that you can put your maize and sell as one voice. Now, in this situation, where we have, and people don't want to sell it, you ask yourself, why don't they want to sell? Plain and simple. And then bring imported maize, that's when you start hearing people say, oh, we have maize and we're not buying. You see, there's the policy.
Yes. Wow.
Because dealing with a few people who are very, which one I use. That's all.
Yeah. You have just put it out there, vichwa ngumu.
Yes, I mean, truth be said. Yeah, truth be said.
Wow. And now we have another story again that is also on our news headlines this morning. We have Kenya lags behind in fertilizer use, Daktari. And International Fertilizer Development Center consumption is saying the rate of which fertilizer is being used in Africa is increasing, but at a slower rate. And it is interesting that we are discussing the importance of soil health this morning. But again, what do you think about that? Because it seems that we want to use fertilizer, but again, we are afraid. So what is happening? Who is lagging behind?
You see, the use of fertilizer, when you start hearing more doing fertilizer, just a minute.
Okay.
So sorry about that noise. When you see people have started embracing fertilizer, meaning that first of all, probably there's a lot of knowledge that has been put down to the people. That's number one. At least number two, farmers have realized that use of fertilizer hastens growth of plants, and you get high yield. Yeah. But on the worrying trend, I might be thinking that now people have started overusing fertilizers, or people have been overcropping, or they have been overdoing agriculture. Yeah, they've been overplanting in such a way that soil has started losing the natural fertility rates of the soil going down. If you see, many people have started embracing fertilizer. You see, I was somewhere in Western Kenya where I was taken to a farm.
Yes.
Where the maize are stunted and not growing at all, and they've put fertilizer. They've put fertilizers, they've put DAP, they've put CAN, they've put everything, but maize is not growing. They're stunted and they are yellow. So they were asking me what's going on. Told them, the best thing to do is actually do a soil analysis and stop using fertilizer. Sometimes it's good to let the soil heal on its own.
Yes.
Because when you overuse, you plant maize year in 20, 30 years. You've been planting maize in that particular land, in that particular soil. Definitely, soil gets overused, you see. So, and also overuse of fertilizer is not really very, very advisable to farmers. So that's why you're seeing there's that cautious, there's an increase in use of fertilizer, but in a cautious way. People also are getting more informed on fertilizer use. And I hope it's not being abused like a place where I went where maize is not doing well because of the overuse of fertilizer. That
Yes.
is where is.
So this is good news when it comes to lagging behind. So if we're lagging behind, that means we are on the right track.
Yeah, you are on the right track, but we do not want to start overusing fertilizer. We'll just be killing us. Yeah, so
Wow.
we need to embrace a few things like use of natural fertilizers like humus or mbolea. That's another option. Use all you can use seaweed. Seaweed also has very good components in terms of fertilizer. Or like what we are doing hydroponics and aquaponics, which are very natural. They're using bio-natural biofertilizers.
Wow. So
So in future we need to now start look at alternatives instead of depending on one type of one just the manufactured fertilizers.
wow, that is quite interesting. And now, just thinking about the issue of overuse of fertilizer, another interesting one. There are some areas that have acidic soil ever since the time of independence. They inherited the land from the colonizers, but right now the soils are still acidic. So is that also an issue of overuse of fertilizer?
And now it depends. That will take us to the soil mapping part of our discussion later on. Depends with the location also. There are points or there are places where soil is naturally acidic. And talking about acidic, we're not saying very high acidic, just slightly acidic, where plants like tomatoes, which do well in slightly acidic soil, can do. Now we cannot point out basically to use of fertilizers. Their natural elements probably type of the area. Maybe was it a place that was had high volcanic activities before? Also depends on the location. If you call a place is has high acidic, maybe there was high use of fertilizer, but I highly doubt if that's the cause of the acidic soil. But basically, it would be a geolocation issue. Probably the area is known to be acidic in nature.
Now, back to Dr. the question of GMO. It seems like we are still behind in terms of GMO. People are still asking so many questions, and we have this survey that is bringing in a lot of issues because this 13%, someone is saying that 13% is almost 15% of the people. They have no idea what GMO is. So they're saying that if we have a percentage that doesn't know, then probably we should just do away with it. So I don't know how you feel about that as well.
Uh, well, I'll keep saying, sorry about that. Yeah. Saying that I'll keep saying when it comes to GMO, that's a topic for a serious discussion that we need to have on another day because GMO is a whole topic and has a lot of discussions and a lot of arguments here and there. So I think we'll not really. I won't feel comfortable trying to talk much about GMO technology because anyway, as long as we have authorities tasked to do the scientific research and give a clean bill of health and tell us, this is good or this is not good, we leave it to them so that they have a bunch of scientists who can carry out studies and tests to see if it is good or not. If it is, our lives depend on that authority. If the safety authority says, hey, the food that we're importing is not good, well and good. So that will leave it to the biosafety authority. Not it is not us to decide. We are not experts.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that
Yeah.
is quite interesting. Now, Daktari, I understand that you are an expert in hydroponics farming, and today we get to discuss the importance of soil mapping. Basically, I don't know, so you will have to explain it to me like I'm a 2 year old. What is soil mapping, the importance of soil mapping, and what it deals with, so that we get to educate people, because you have told me that it is good news that we are behind in the use of fertilizer. This means that we understand our soil, but we need to do more. So we get to discuss that so much more right here on this show. But for now, we just want to take a small breather. And remember, you can chip in this conversation through our social media handles, and that is on Facebook, where we are Farmers Media, on Twitter at Farmers Media, on YouTube Farmers Media, and on Instagram Farmers_media. Daktari, I hope you have your notes ready, because today I am here to learn about soil mapping, but probably we do that after our short breather. See you in a short while.
Hey, you have to let me change my one of.
Imeshika, si ni hii? Nafinya hii. Nikiongea nafinya hivyo. Imeshika. Human beings, just like plants and animals, need sufficient food to survive. But food must be safe and nutritious, not only to provide energy and basic nutrients, but also to prevent disease and intake of harmful toxins. Today marks an important day in agriculture as we celebrate World Soil Day, and our focus is geared on the importance of soil mapping, which is a method used to obtain the most accurate information about the condition of the soil, the weather, and of the crops. Soil mapping allows a farmer to know the composition of soil much better, and also to know the features and specificity of the agricultural land they are cultivating much better. It further assists in determining overuse of fertilizer and some farming chemicals that change soil composition and disrupts the balance of microorganisms in the soil, which stimulates the growth of harmful bacteria at the expense of beneficial bacteria in the soil. Soil mapping is therefore an indispensable tool in the present agricultural activities, because it gives the needed information to reduce the margins of mistakes in our agricultural businesses. As we celebrate this day, it is important to note that soil is the basis of all life on earth. We have to recognize the central role of healthy soils as an asset that is key to nutrition, economic development, climate change, and resilient livelihoods, and value all these factors accordingly in order to correct our human behavior for better land use and land management. And according to Franklin Roosevelt, the nation that destroys its soil destroys itself. Happy World Soils Day. Christine Mutindi for Farmers Media. mapping. And again, I'm told that the tea factory is choking. The tea factory is choking, but again, we'll get to see about that. But right now, Daktari, let's get into it about soil mapping.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Sorry, I had to change gadgets.
It's
That's
quite
why
okay.
I had to change a bit of gadgets here and there. Technology, Nigeria, some of us are getting on.
But at least you're here.
Yeah, technology to overtake kiasi. Anyway, I wanted to ask guys, today's trivia question, what is precision farming? Because soil mapping is a type of precision farming. So if you know what precision farming is, in our comment section, or somebody wants to tell us what precision farming is. So soil mapping is one of the precision farming that people are slowly embracing in the world right now. And why we embrace? What is soil mapping in the first place? It's just like cartography. Yeah, if you've heard of cartography or you've heard of mapping, where we're trying to get an overlay or a visualization of a specific data. So when it comes to soil maps, these are geographic representation of that shows diversity in soil types in different locations. For example, when we look at the map of Kenya, and then we look at the soil map for Kenya, we'll definitely be able to look at various types of soil. We can look at probably loamy soil located in this part of this country. We look at sandy soil. Kama kwenyu ni mchanga gani? Ni sand tupu au ni clay? Red clay, or which kind of soil do you have kwenyu?
I have no idea. Actually, mi hata nilikuwa najua map ni ya geography. What you're telling me is Greek. But I know we have the black one because in our area we have the black volcanic stones. So our soil is a little bit black. So I don't know which type that is. Is it loam soil or I have no idea.
It's cotton soil, black cotton. Which is very good. Here in Kitten, where I am, is actually black cotton. When it rains, like yesterday it rained here. So we are starting. I couldn't make it because studio in time. Because once it rains, that's it.
Is it the type of soil that sometimes cows get stuck inside, and I can see people just wanachinja ng'ombe because it's stuck in soil? Is that the type of soil, the black cotton soil?
Exactly. And I remember when there's a time, I remember telling you in the other shows when we went deep in the drought. Yeah, we were very deep in the drought, and then one day from nowhere there was a flash flood. Rain, I don't know where it came from, but I'm telling you, there were cows that were stuck in the middle of the road. And getting a cow is just not 1 month's work or not 2 months' work.
Yes.
You need to have to get it out. Otherwise, cows will die there. So we had so many people losing their cows because of the road, the flash floods in the road. So those are things that we need to understand. And then clay. Okay, we'll talk about the types of soil later on because we are not discussing about types of soil. We are looking at the soil map. So it's very important to have a geographic analysis of soil map, and more reasons that once we have the cartographic analysis of a soil map, we'll be able to understand what needs to be done, or what needs to be which elements, or which chemical, or not chemicals, which kind of components that are in your soil. For example, the volcanic, we have good volcanic soil in the mountainous regions of Kenya. Very good for coffee.
Yes.
We have cotton, black cotton for for even maize. Maize does very well in black cotton soil. So this soil mapping is a very good thing but I've not seen it being well utilized here in Kenya, because I don't know, there's still a lot of knowledge that needs to be put down to farmers. So why are we discussing soil mapping today? You know, soil mapping allows us to know much better about composition features of soil, especially in agricultural land. So if you're a farmer and you want to, let's say, buy land or do specific farming in an area, for example, now I want to sell you land in Loitoktok, and you want to know which kind of soil is regionally there.
Yes.
That's when you can go to, there are maps that are available. You can go to Ministry of, I don't know if lands have Ministry of Lands have cartographic soil maps. Yeah, they might be having, because they have a cartographic department. So you can normally go and look at soil maps. You see which kind of soils are there. Soil maps are just basically like any other type of maps. You see the way we can have road maps, geopolitical maps, where you see boundaries, you can even see the hydrological features in the map. So it's very important that we understand, yeah. So also shows diversity of soil. Things, some elements relating to soil, such as the pH, texture, organic matter, depth of soil, its in nutrient levels, etc. You know, because by the time you are getting a soil map, all these analyses have been done. We do all this analysis to get rich information about your soil type. So when we're talking about soil mapping, we're not only talking about agriculture here, we are talking about other disciplines. It's, in other disciplines, we're talking about geography here, we're talking about chemistry here, we are talking about physics here, we are talking about all aspects, even biology. So it's an all-round discipline to discuss soil mapping, because this information is very vital to different persons or different professions who actually will need this rich information on the type of soil, especially even for construction.
Yes.
People who want to do construction in different areas will also need to know or to do a soil map and see which kind of soil you have, how deep they're going to do the foundation for that matter. Places that are some things like permeability. See how fast water can seep in. Like us in our region where we are right now, we have that problem because of the black cotton soil. So that when it rains, the little rain that rains, you know, we sometimes we pray for rain, but when it comes, also we are really affected so much. So if you do not have 4x4 car, you cannot be able to live in the area.
Yeah, so if someone is depending on Route 11, then they have a problem when we have the flash rains and when it's rainy season. Like when it's coming right now, rainy season, so it's a problem for that area because of the kind of soil that is there.
Yeah, so Paul and my dogs have seen Metro working from home. Yeah. So basically, it's very important that you understand your soil type, especially for a person who wants to do. One person who wants to understand what kind of crop you want to indulge in, or if you want to do a new type of farming activity, you want to do a new type of activity, and you feel like you're not really conversant with the soil type. Soil type is very important, especially when you want to establish a specific type of farming, especially for tea farmers. If you're a tea farmer, what kind of soil would you want? If you're a coffee farmer, what kind of, or you move to a place that it's totally a virgin land, and you want to know what kind of farming would you want to have in such a location. That's where you go and you can go and do a soil mapping. And by the way, talking about soil mapping also helps cut the cost of doing soil analysis.
Yes.
See, sometimes you go and do a soil analysis of a location. Let's say bought land in Kamulu, and you don't know what you want to do. And I know so many guys are doing watermelon. At the time everybody was doing watermelons, so you want to do watermelons in Kamulu. So instead of doing a soil test, you can use soil mapping to see if there are records that are there, readily available records. You can be able to get to know which kind of soils that which kind of soil that is there. Yeah.
So
somebody,
Dr.
I'm sure,
soil mapping is quite important. What, and in Kenya, as you have said, we have not been doing it. So what have we been doing? Is it soil analysis? Or if someone doesn't know, then what do they need to do? Like, because I understand some people are not able to get the typographical. Kizungu hapa leo daktari. Typographical. I am even writing down because I will bite my tongue if I don't write down to know the words. Typographical analysis. What happens if someone has not done, and if it is very important, then what have we been doing as farmers? What has been happening to our soil analysis?
I'm not saying that we do not do soil mapping. All that what I was saying is that we've not embraced the use of soil maps. You see, as farmers here in Kenya, maps are already there. If you go to any county offices, they've already done analysis, cartographical analysis. By the time they map up an area, there's different variables. I think you did GHC those days, eh? Ulifanya GHC when you used to use a string to, get the distance between point A and point B.
Yes.
Those ones very early in the morning, the first exam unafanya GHC, you have to have a set and all the other things.
Yes.
Talking about the people doing exams. So basically, when they've mapped up areas, they have several variables and several details that they've definitely taken into consideration. Yeah. But now I can say that all the maps basically have soil maps. Yeah. Probably if you have proper surveyors, land surveyors, and cartographers, you can indulge their use in coming up with soil maps. But now that will depend. Is it an organization which will be requesting such data, or probably the government will be requesting such data? But it's also important for a county government to be having such knowledge around its area. So a big question would be why? How do we do soil mapping? How this soil mapping is done? There are several ways that soil mapping is done. Is using electrical or electromagnetic sensors. I don't know if have you ever seen people doing hydrological survey?
No, I have not. This is new to me.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So, like electrical or they put sensors, things called anodes on the soil. They place them in different types of location, and then they do an electro analysis. Yeah. Electro analysis here, they look at the conductivity of specific soils. Yeah. There's some soils or some ions in soils that are very good conductors, and there are some others that are not. From that analysis, that electrical and electromagnetic analysis, you can be able to map up electromagnetic features of soil. Yeah. How? Okay. Different soils have different conductivity. Yeah. So sandy soil, loam soil. Which other types of soil do we have?
We have clay soil, loam soil, and clay soil is used for modeling actually, but now loam soil is good for farming.
Yeah, it depends with the kind of chemical, the kind of elements it has within it. So now this is just one aspect from which you can, because different soils have different electrical conductivity, yeah, or electromagnetic conductivity. So from the data gotten from these sensors, we can be able to map up and see this area has loam soil, this area has clay or has the red volcanic or whichever soil it has. So from there, we can be able to know. It seems tedious, but this is good for people, for small-scale farmers who really want to know. If you have like 2 acres of land and you want to do that, you can use this electromagnetic sensor to test your soil or to map up your soil. The second one, which is the most used in the world, is called the optical. Now, this optical sensor, these are machines used to detect difference in color. Very simple, just difference in color of the soil present, allowing interpretation of characteristics. This is what has been this is what has generally been used in making the Kenyan map. During the time that they were making the Kenyan map, they were using these optical sensors to do a check. Basically, when you are looking at red soil, you know this area is for this area is red volcanic soil, just generally. So it is vague. It is not really specific. It looks over a generally big or vast area to generally say places black cotton soil. Like if you pass over Kajiado or Kajiado County, or you pass through Mandera, you'll say this is which kind of soil. So you'll forgive the noise behind me. Forgive the noise. Yeah. So
that only means that security is tight. From the noise I can hear, you're very secure.
Hapo hawezi kuja karibu.
I can clearly tell.
Yeah. When you're living in place mbali isolated, no, you need security is very important.
Yes, it is.
Anyway, that's story for another day. Now, where was I? I was talking about optical. Now, this optical is what people are using these days. People are using, especially when you're using drones. Yeah? When you're using drone technology, you can use your drone to map up your 5-acre piece of land. Just set up your drone, goes and takes pictures, yeah? You can use, the drones can also be able to map up soil using infrared, where each soil can present different characteristics, yeah? Probably sandy soil will give out a different wavelength. Clay soil will give out a different wavelength. So from there, it can be able to analyze or take analysis of the whole region using aerial view kind of pictography. So that is, in fact, that's easy for somebody who's doing a wide scale or over a large farm, because the drones can just go over and take about a couple of pictures. If I talk about a couple of pictures, I talk about 2,000 least pictures. And if you've taken about 2,000 pictures, you take them for analysis, software analysis, which will look at the individual data. From the individual data, it can be able to give out a pictorial representation.
So, Daktari, I would be right if I say that our soil speaks, and this is what you have explained about the optical and the other methods of soil mapping. This means that the color of our soil and the nutrients that are in that soil, they can speak. So I would be right if I say our soil speaks for itself. So you'll be able to tell if there are organisms that are good for the soil or if they are not.
Yes, yes. Yeah, you see, now we are talking about unexplored, especially when you are looking at unexplored land. Especially this is very vital information to farmers who want to probably have purchased new land or probably want to indulge in a new type of farming over a region that has not been predominantly been used in agricultural activity. For example, if you are a new farmer and you move all the way to this hill and you want to convert range land, farming land that was initially used to graze animal, you want to change it into a farmland. It's very important that you know the type of soil that is there. We know clays, we know type of this cotton soil, what it's used for, how good it is. and which kind of crop can grow best in it. Yeah? So these cartographical maps are important. These soil maps are very important for farmers who want to indulge into new farming methods and really want to cut costs, especially in analysis. By the way, if you tell a farmer right now that you go and do your soil, go and do soil analysis, they get really worked up about that. Most of them just they'll shy away from doing soil analysis.
Yes. And so, Dr. just getting to understand the importance of soil mapping. We have some different, you see land, maybe when there's landslide, you see there are different layers of land. The land below has a different color it has like layers of different colors. What does it mean for those colors, and what is happening because the land slides, and then we see some plants have not grown in that area. It is stony on the ground below, but again we have other areas that there's different layers. The down below doesn't look, the layer that is at the bottom level looks rocky, but there's still plants growing. Does it mean that the nutrients move from layer to layer, or what does it really mean for that?
I'll take you back to your geography. You remember your geography?
Yes.
Soil layers.
Yes.
Or the soil structures.
Yes.
Where we have on top humus layer, then from humus layer we have the topsoil, then from the topsoil you have this type of soil, all the way to the bedrock. Remember that? Now there might be issues when it comes to soil layers, and these issues can be resultant to natural activities such as flooding, for that matter. You'll see some places, there are places where there's a lot of soil erosion, too much soil erosion that whatever is remained is just bare soil. The top soil has been removed. And what happens is top soil and the middle layer is where we get much of the nutrients. And unless now you have something called leaching, where all the nutrients actually permeate down the soil layers. But normally you will get all your nutrients on the top soil. So it's very important that when you're doing when you want to do farming, and when you want to get land for farming, you look at physical features like rocks. When you see lots of rocks, be knowing that the place had issues with erosion, because rocks are actually down in the layering of soil. Rocks are actually down. So when you see that, you should be worried, because that's a place that is prone to soil erosion, yeah. And there are ways of which you can stop soil erosion. That's the best part of it, yeah. So, but I hadn't finished on the types of how do we do soil mapping, by the way, before you. I talked about the two, electrical and optical, yeah.
Optical.
The other things like mechanical sensors, yeah, where we use the composition of the land using tools. It's basically like almost electrical, where we just use machineries to know the soil type. Yeah, we use tools to see this. They clamp the soil and be able to determine from the soil type which type of soil is. So you can go there with an excavator and pull out from one point. You see this is red soil, and then you move direct to another point of the soil, and then you clamp it, and you remove the soil and see which kind of soil it is. Yeah. So you know the characteristic using mechanical machineries. You can use a tractor, you can use excavators, whichever. This is very easy to just using normal machines. Yeah. The last one is the electrochemical sensors. Same we use in hydrological survey. Those are the same things. We use electrochemical. These are where we look at the chemical composition of the soil. Yeah, composition. When we use electro, basically we are looking at the ions. Yes. The ions, the conductivity in terms of chemical properties. Yeah.
Yes.
Chemical sensors are able to determine things like pH, the pH of the soil. You can be able to the the conductivity, electoral conductivity, electrolysis. You can be able to know the presence of ions, positive ions of things like potassium and other elements such as nitrates, nitrogen, etc. Just using chemical analysis or electrochemical analysis, when pass a current there, and from there can be able to analyze and give you data. And then these use very specialized machines for that matter. So basically, it doesn't come cheaply. Do you know how much it is? Quick question to you. You know, can you guess how much it is right now to do a hydrological survey in Kenya? And it is a
Ranging from
requirement by law.
the things you've said and the mechanics and the equipment being used, I can say it's probably 100 Gs, 100,000 Kenya shillings.
And for water, for hydrological survey,
Yes.
which is actually required by law to, before you do a borehole, you have to do a hydrological survey. 10 years ago, it used to be 30,000 shillings. Right now, it should be the range of, it should be 50,000 shillings for you to do. And you don't even cover a large area, you cover a very small area when you're doing a hydrological survey.
Wait,
Now,
you
meaning,
said required by the law. So you have to do that.
Yeah,
like it is a requirement by the government.
Yeah, by the government. So before you do any borehole or any well, you need to do a hydrological survey. By doing a hydrological survey, you have to determine a lot of details out of it, because you know the type of water that the quality of water, if it's fit for human use. If it's fit for human use, you're given a clean bill of health to go on and use the drilling. If it is not, you'll have to search for an alternative area. So, just don't wake up today and say, iko maji hapa nataka kuchimba. No, they also need chemical analysis of the water. And then, from there we can be able to understand.
Oh, then now I'm getting the point of why sometimes borehole water becomes salty. So this means that people didn't do the right measuring, or they didn't do soil mapping on that specific area before they dug the borehole.
Okay, don't talk about soil mapping when you're talking about hydrological survey. Soil mapping is totally different. So I'll just correct you there. Just doing analysis, hydrological analysis, because these sensors are able to determine how far the aquifer is. Give you the depth. It will give you the quality of water through these electro sensors. These electro sensors will know if there are toxins in the soil. And by the way, these electrochemical sensors that I've talked about in soil mapping also will determine if your soil is toxic. Yeah. But there are places where soils are toxic. You wonder why your plants are not growing, because it has some toxic elements. And this toxicity will come because of probably issues relating to maybe past activities. Yeah. Maybe it was a mining area. People are mining there, or people were doing some engineering work. Yeah. Like there's a place, I don't know. There's a place somebody had bought land somewhere in Central, I think. Had bought land, and this lady was wondering why every time she does farming, nothing is coming out. So she requested the intervention of there's a company in Nairobi. They went and did a soil analysis. Whatever they got there was worrying. They told this lady, your soil is very toxic. It has very toxic elements. Even for you, you need to kabisa not touch anything, and if possible, even leave toka hapo kabisa. The area was being used. It was I think it was a military place. They used to do military bombs. They used to do bombs and whatnot. So the place was highly contaminated for any agricultural activity. So the lady had to So I remember what we did with Ole. We can do for you as a soil-free system. So she went online and searched for us, and the only thing she could do was a soil-free agricultural practice because the soil was totally kabisa. She had done a greenhouse, and soil was contaminated, had very huge amounts of toxic elements like lead. So gunpowder has a lot of lead, especially when you have the bombs, when
Yes.
the bomb explodes, a lot of gunpowder. The place was used for military drill by the British, so it was highly contaminated. I think the people who sold her the land knew all this, but they didn't tell us. So we ended up doing a soil-free system where we used pumice and we did fish pond. So the water from the fish pond was able to go. It was totally soil-free using pumice, and the project did well. Actually, she was very happy that she could do something with the greenhouses that she's done because the soil there couldn't do anything for that matter. Yeah.
Wow. So this means that that
So-
explains even some areas that have very acidic soils, and they were used by the British military even during colonial times.
Yes. Especially in the central area. You might get a land there. You wonder what's going on. Probably the place is contaminated because of those drills. Yeah.
Wow. So back to
That's why
the soil mapping, and you have just explained about the electrochemical method of measuring or doing soil mapping. So does this mean that you do not literally need the machines to just be there? You can also do electrochemical. You've talked about the mechanical method and the optical method that uses infrared. Do these machines also bring in some part of other nutrients or the electrolysis of the soil when you're measuring, or they are just meant specifically for doing soil mapping?
These are just
We'll get hold of Daktari. I can't quite get to hear you, but we'll do that. And remember, the question we're asking today is, what is precision farming? And as we discuss the importance of soil mapping, please get hold of us and please tell us what you think. What is precision farming? And you can tell us on Afamaz Media. That is on Facebook, on Twitter, Afamaz at Afamaz Media, on YouTube, Afamaz Media, and on Instagram, Afamaz_media. Now, what is precision farming? What do you understand about soil mapping? Because Daktari has been explaining, Dr. Mwakio has been explaining the importance of soil mapping and the methods that can be used. I hope you have your notebook, just like I have mine, and your coffee ready, because we are just getting new information about soil mapping, about the methods of soil mapping, the importance of soil mapping. Now, remember, just an interesting fact again, we're going to have 2 sessions of webinars later today, right here on Afamaz Media, to discuss matters soil health. As we celebrate World Soil Day, we're going to be discussing about soil, what you need to know, because as you know, farming is not something you just wake up and decide, today I want to be a farmer. You have to really do a lot of things. There's so many factors to consider, and all that information you can only find it on Afamaz Media, only. And I said only because this is where we give you factual information, interesting education as well about farming. And this is from poultry to cow farming, dairy farming as well. And if you also want to do your kitchen garden, you get to learn all that right here on Breakfast Show on Afamaz Media. Now, I'm going to take a sip of coffee as well, and I will be back. Now remember, there is a webinar later today, so stay tuned. Stay tuned to our station, and we will get to discuss more about soil mapping, the importance of soil mapping. The question is, what do you understand about soil mapping, and what is precision farming? I'll get to read the comments later. Please keep the answers coming. Yes.
2 months combined.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so anyway, we hope for the best.
We hope for the best. Switch gears a little bit and we
Sorry, I'm muted. Can you hear me now? Ninapambana hapa kumbe nimemute vitu.
we lost him a little while ago, and he was just explaining to us the types of methods that are used for soil mapping. So, Daktari, back to where you are. I lost you for a minute, and I was scared because this is a full lesson. You will send me the invoice later. I will pay you because today is just a very good day. I am learning a lot today. So just continue from where we left a while ago.
Najua hii maneno ya kuishi kwa mashambani ni ndio hiyo. The method, the internet just started to play. But anyway, I'm back.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was saying something before. I was rudely interrupted with this technology of ours.
Yes.
Can you bring?
Sorry, Daktari.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I was saying something before I was cut off. I don't know if you can remind me.
Yes, we were speaking about the electrochemical composition of the method of soil mapping, electrochemical.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we were looking at different conductivity. Yeah? Each soil has a different conductivity. So from that analysis of the conductivity, we can be able to know if this is cotton soil, if this is clay soil, or this is sandy soil. Yeah, that in its way we can be able to know the general characteristics, same as the electrochemical sensors. Yeah, if we do pH, the machine shows that the pH of this area is 6.5. We'll definitely know that this is probably the what do you call this ones for where we don't use for tea, the mounted kind of soil.
Yes.
Yeah, we have different
types of soil. Yes, we do.
So let's start from there. What are the soil types we have?
So we have clay soil, we have loam soil, we have sand soil. Is it sandy soil or sand soil? We have sand soil. We have again cotton soil. Yes.
And volcanic soil.
Yes, especially volcanic soil is in our area a lot, where you find that the black stones, once you turn it upside down, you find that it has kind of roots from it, but the soil that is underneath, it's kind of black. It looks powdery, but it's very, very fertile because greens just grow. Greens like mchicha and even beans and maize, they grow really well in our area because of that black volcanic soil.
Yes, they'll do. And then there's that red volcanic soil that's in central Kenya, which does very well with coffee and tea, and also tomatoes and all that. Yeah, so basically, somebody was arguing with me saying, which is the most which is the best soil to use? That's a big argument there. There's a big argument. Some people are arguing which is the best soil for agriculture. So probably I'll leave it and ask you, what do you think, which is the best soil for agriculture? For agricultural
I
use,
think the
is
best
it
soil
clay?
for
Is it
agriculture is loam soil, if I'm not wrong, because if that is the kind of soil we have in our area, and it grows really well, and the food, and even for plucking, once you're farming, it is not easy to pluck out the weeds. So for me, it does very well, and you don't need a lot of effort. You don't need many mechanical instruments or machinery for farming using that type of soil. That is in our area. So I am vouching for our area. Volcanic loam
I
soil.
think we'll put the discussion on which is the best soil to our webinar today. But what I normally believe is we cannot rank soil as which is the best, because so it determines, whatever determines what soil is best is the outcome. For example, if I want to do my maize farming, not necessarily will I use volcanic soil.
Yes.
You see, so the type of soil that is best for agriculture is determined to the production or whatever you want to produce. So that determines the kind of soil that you want. But there are specific soils that can be able to have all round, yeah, I mean, suitable for almost all the kind of different plants. For, let's say like volcanic soil or cotton. Black cotton also does quite well for different types of vegetable, of plants and vegetables for that matter.
Now, Dr. You have just mentioned volcanic soil, and I'm thinking, does the volcanic soil affect the acidity or the pH, as you have said, of the soil? Because volcano just erupts and then it settles down, then people start vacating to those places and they occupy those lands. Is it good land, and what is the acidity levels and the pH? Does it affect that, or is it just good for farming and the nutrients there and the organisms? Do they coexist very well when people relocate to those areas?
First of all, the volcanic part of it, we're talking about hundreds of thousands, if not million years ago, for it to be for the soil to be determined as volcanic. For the process of soil formation, it takes millions of years. So
Dr.
thousands of years. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah. What I'm saying is soil formation, soil is formed over a long period of time. So when we talk about volcanic soil, these are soils that have been formed from volcanic activity over periods of times, which means over thousands and thousands of years. We cannot say that there was an eruption of a volcano here and we wait for a week and we start doing cultivation there. That won't work. And then some of these volcanic soils have variance in pH. Yeah, you'll find some that are about 6.5 on the pH scale, which is slightly acidic, to some that are up to even 7 point something on not 7, a bit 5 point something on the pH scale, which is slightly bit acidic. Now, their graphs or their graphical representation of plants and how well they can do it in relation to the pH gauge. Yeah? There are plants that do very well in very high pH, very high. When we talk of high pH, is actually alkalinic soils, and very low pH is acidic soils. The plants that do well, most plants that we know do well in slightly acidic soils, and some that do well in alkaline soils. So that depends also on what you want to do. See, if you have a pH map, a soil map of pH only, that gives a soil map that gives us a representation of the pH you can be able to know where to plant this kind of plant or where to plant tomatoes for that matter on this specific region. So, for example, you've gotten a 5-acre land. You've hired the work of a cartographer or a surveyor, land surveyor, to do soil mapping for you. And then you look at different ranges of, you look at just specific variants of what you want, or determine what you want, and you just want the pH. So there, that is where you will do the electrochemical analysis using the electrochemical sensors. When you do that, you'll just probably just need to know pH of the area. Yeah, maybe you see it ranges between 5.6 to probably 6 point something. Now from there, you can be able to use that map to plant within a specific area. This place has a higher pH compared to the other plants. So that is where you can do your system, your farming based on that data.
Okay, and Dr. because you have mentioned about the different methods, are these machines readily available, or is there a traditional way that a local farmer, mimi niko Makueni and I've decided to start farming today, is there a traditional way I can tell the type of soil, the pH, the acidity? Because as you have mentioned, it is quite important for farming, because and again, farming is not something you just wake up and decide today I want to be a farmer. Clearly there are some considerations that need to be done before you even venture into a farming business. So is there a traditional way of telling if the type of soil, or do I really need to rely on these machines?
Do you know, we've been doing soil mapping for the longest of years without us knowing.
Really?
We've been doing soil mapping without us knowing all these years.
How have you been doing that?
We've always been knowing Kirinyaga has this type of soil. We've always been knowing Makueni has this type of soil. We've always been knowing the coastal area has this type of soil. Or through visual mapping or visualizing, that if you go to Nyanza, you'll get black cotton soil. If you go to Kajiado, you'll get the same. That we've been doing that by visual interpretation, by just looking at it. Now, the mapping part of it came when we got deeper into cartography, and by making our maps, we also wanted to do a map of soil ranges and soil types. Yeah. So just like even climatic maps, the way climatic maps are, which determines this region has this specific type of climate and this region, same as to soil map, only that this now we've incorporated a few details into a map system that, and maps are geographic representation, be it political or that gives us different areas, geopolitical areas, or just geographical ranges based on locality, if it is the Rift Valley or if it's the Central Province, etc., etc. So what we are basically doing is to, look at our vision. So the only thing we used to do, whatever we are doing now, maybe it's just probably mechanical way where we able to excavate the soil and we see which kind of soil we have. That's the mechanical. So what we are doing is just mapping, for that matter, is just a geographic representation, and that's all. It has nothing to do with the farmer and the agriculture work. This is just a bit in terms of geographic representation in a map.
And now, because you have mentioned that we have been doing that, so what are because there are some threats also directly from us and as humans overusing, but what are most of the common ones that have been affecting this soil? Because yes, we can see, but we're still the ones who cut down trees. So what are some of the common threats, the most common ones that we do or that come from the environment that affect our soil?
Over agriculture, overcropping, too much agriculture, poor agricultural methods, like those people who those who farm near the rivers, you see, those who do those who do not practice contour farming, the contour farming where instead of doing your when you're cultivating, or you're preparing your land, you go with the counters, not against the counters. That now exposing the land to erosion is one of the biggest things that we have farmers have really done to mess up the soil. Yeah, removing of cover crops. Yeah.
Yes.
And leaving the soil there so that plants can be able to wash off the surface runoff, get rid of the topsoil, and not practicing safe agricultural activity. Do you know the work of trees? Trees that hold down soil actually put soil into check by holding them. So deforestation has also left soil exposed to elements. Yeah. It's very good to also cover the soil. If I can go deep into science, there are some chemicals that react due to high exposure to sunshine. Yeah? So you cultivate, you leave your soil bare, you expose the chemical components into to high sunshine exposure. This breaks down some of the chemicals. The breakdown. Oh God, he is back. So it breaks down the chemicals. Yeah, and then what else? I want like leaching. Yeah, you leave the soil bare. The rain comes, it seeps in, and leaches all the chemicals down. So it's very important that we have topsoil, and we also need to protect the topsoil by doing things like mulching, cover crops, etc., etc. Likewise, I was talking about protecting the soil through things like planting trees. If you're not, it's very good to do like coffee, how they do coffee or tea, where you intercrop for trees with coffee at the same time. Yeah. So it's important that we start embracing tree planting, especially in farming. Very important, especially to cure the soil. And then crop rotation is very, very, very important. People don't realize how important crop rotation is. Yeah, crop rotation is very important to the soil. And then the soil rejuvenation. Always leave your soil to rejuvenate. Yeah.
And now you were telling a story a while ago, like just in this show, you were telling a story of a lady who she had greenhouses and she didn't know because the land was being used by the British soldiers. So how do you reduce, because you have that land and you have bought it, you have inherited it, how do you reduce the acidity in that type of land? You are an expert in that, and as you have said, you gave her some advice and she was able to do that. But now, how do you reduce it? And if you tell you have that type of soil, do you just decide to farm on one side, or how do you reduce the acidity in that type of soil?
There are several ways you can treat soil that have too much acid, nitrate, or very alkaline. There are ways that you can treat your soil, but you will need an expert to do this. You cannot do it on your own, like you go to the internet and you start getting soda ash or getting whatever and start pouring to your soil depending on no, you have to first of all get the soil analysis. From the analysis will be able to tell you, this your soil is this has this high acidic level, and this high acidic level is not. So they need to involve the work of experts. There's some ways or some places like where this lady's soil was that are very contaminated and cannot be treated for that matter. So, like for example, in that case, your soil, there's nothing that can be done to your soil. It's already messed up, and you just forget about doing any other agricultural activity. And that is where she decided to embrace soil-free farming system, like what we did for her.
So it's very important that you understand the soil composition, you see how acidic or alkaline your soil is, and from there you can determine which kind of vegetables or vegetation or plants you want to grow right on your soil.
Mm-hmm. And now, Daktari, there's someone here who's saying there is no life on this earth without the soil, and no soil without life. We are the reason for soil pollution, so we must be the reason for its solution. We are the reason for soil pollution, so we must be the reason for its solution. Soil is the soul of the earth. So yes, if we are the reason for the soil pollution, what are some of the solutions that we can have? Because long ago I used to see people building gabions, and that was one of the trademarks that were known for former President Moi, the late President Moi, and building gabions. He was there, and that was very active, and I learned that even in school. So what happened? Are we still conserving our soils, or are we still polluting it as at now? Because even the seas are quite polluted with plastics, and of course if the sea is polluted, then the soil is polluted. What are some of the solutions that we can have, because we are the reason for its pollution?
A long time ago, we used to have this herbicide called DDTs. Yeah?
Yes.
The DDTs were very, very toxic. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, we used to have this chemical used it was an acaricide called DDT, which was very, very toxic to the environment. That had to be banned across the globe. Yeah.
Yes.
Because of its bad implications to the soil and also to the human health. Now, if we can be able to, in terms of some of these pesticides that are very dangerous to the soil, we need to do sample analysis. We look at their general effect to the soil and ultimately to plants and humans. And if we know some of these acaricides are dangerous, we need to put a stop to them. Secondly, we need to practice some of these things I've just talked about, safe soil control measures like putting cover crops, like crop rotation, like leaving the soil to heal, preventing erosion. Preventing erosion meaning even the way you do your plowing, the way you plow your land. Preventing soil erosion by the ways you can build gabions to prevent soil erosion. I don't know if you've been to Nyanza some part of Nyanza where very serious soil erosion, such as very big gullies. The places in I think in Yakach, where we've seen very deep gullies because of soil erosion. So you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful how you treat your soil, because if you treat your soil well, it will treat you well. If you treat it badly, you're the one who will suffer in hunger. So it is us, we are the reasons to why our soils are struggling, because we want, partly some of us are too greedy, we want to just make the best use out of it, and we're not finding a solution to cure it, because soil is a natural, what do you call it? It's a natural resource that it's God given. So we need also to take care of it. Without it, we start seeing the productivity of our land going down because of overuse. And the use of chemicals is also a concern in the world right now. We need to find a way of checking out to control overuse of pesticides and acaricides. Yeah.
Wow. I am really enjoying this because I am learning so many things, and the things that I used to see as small things, right now I can see they are very important, and every action is important to how you take care of the soil. Now, we're just going to have so much more. And remember, we are asking the question, what is precision farming? Because as Daktari has said, soil mapping helps in precision farming. So what do you understand by precision farming? Precision farming. So please keep the answers coming. We're going on a short breather, but we will be back. Now remember, we're having a webinar later today, 2 sessions, and we're going to be discussing about soil health. It is Matters Soil this week because we are celebrating World Soil Day. Please do not go far, but please give me the answer. What is precision farming?
All of those things. So science, what is science? Science is understanding how the elements work and somehow developing a system where you control for certain elements so that you can replicate something that you want. So science has always, well, first of all, science is in everything. So of course it's in agriculture. Modern agricultural techniques are now using genetic technologies, and modern being in the last 30, 40 years or so. And so we're using genetic technologies because we understand them more. So we talk a lot about gene editing and we talk a lot about GMOs. It's not such a new technology per se. I did my PhD in this more than 25 years ago. And at that time, we were studying what I did my postdoc in. We studied baculovirus expression systems, which was a way of developing biological pesticides using genetic modification. But it was based on an indigenous knowledge system. So it was based on the fact that farmers in Ghana, over 100 years before, had known that, yes, they get these pests that affect their crop, but every now and again, there's something that happens to the pest. They get a disease and they die. So then they realized that there must be something that kills this. They didn't know then it was a virus, but they would take these caterpillars and they would homogenize them and they would store them. And the next year, when they grew their crop, they would then sprinkle some of the liquid on their crop, and they realized it was a natural biological pesticide. They did this for hundreds of years. And by the time scientists now came to investigate what is it in this system, they realized, oh, it's a virus. It's a virus that attacks, it's very targeted, it doesn't affect any other plant or animal species, doesn't affect humans. And so that's the basis upon the baculovirus expression system. And then we, as scientists, began then to look at the system, began to say, how do you replicate it? How do you then accelerate the rate of kill of the virus so that it can be much more targeted and faster and can be a commercial product? And the reason for this is so that you can reduce chemical pesticides. So my point is, we have always known about modifications. We've always known about traditional plant breeding is based on genetic modification. It's just that we couldn't see the genes, we couldn't manipulate them as well. So that has always been there. So now that we have systems that allow us to see our genes, we have gene editing and we have GMOs. Now GMOs is where you bring some kind of, you bring genetic material from outside of the species to use. Gene editing is when you don't go out, bring foreign material, you use whatever is already in the genome. So the way it was described by a communicator in Nigeria is GMOs are marriage outside of the family. Gene editing is marriage inside of the family. Well, maybe the wider family, extended family. But you know what I mean. So you're using what is already there, or you're bringing something different. But it's more or less the same methodologies. But it's also how bacteria, how was this technology discovered? It was discovered because scientists realized that bacteria do this anyway. So natural bacterial systems edit their genes. When they're attacked, they edit so that they're more resilient. So this is being replicated in the lab using a natural system. So it's not unnatural in that it was not a system that was foisted upon nature. It is a system in nature that is being replicated using scientific.
This is
a farmer's
media.
A farmer's media.
We tell you the stories of African farmers.
Breakfast show right here on AFAMA's Media Now. We are running a campaign this week, a campaign by Markup funded by the European Union, and that is on awareness on management and control of aflatoxins. Management and control of aflatoxins. That will be running right here on AFAMA's Media. Now, we are still on the issue of soil mapping. And again, Daktari, I'd just like to pick your brain on an issue, and this is on baobab trees that has just come up in the last 1 hour or so. Now, farmers in the coastal region and the baobab trees grow mostly in that area, and they want to uproot them. So, what do you think they contribute to our environment? Because I know their roots go deep, but again, I do not understand because they have been there for a while. Even in our local area, they have been there. But why do they need to be uprooted at this time? Do they have an effect on our soil as well?
Yeah, I mean, what happens is baobabs have very strong and very deep network of roots, and by them having the network of roots, that helps hold soil. You see, we need to have the soil held, otherwise we'll be having widespread desertification if we do not have if we have loose soil. Imagine having loose soil. What will happen? We'll be having dust storms and the kind of desert-like environment caused by such issues of loose soil. Now, that's the work of baobab trees. Baobab trees, they do very well in very harsh climatic conditions, especially in desert-like conditions, the SL regions of Kenya. I remember I was in Makueni County a couple of weeks back, and I never knew that baobab tree is one that shows these red things that we eat, these very sweet things that we eat. Um, and what's the name of that red
Mabuyu.
seed, sweet red mabuyu? Yes, yes, yeah. So somebody took me to the field there, and I started eating the seeds. Very sweet. They don't even need coloring and whatnot like they do.
No,
So
no, no, no.
baobabs are very they just do the flavoring. That's all which is, but they're very sweet. The seeds are very sweet.
Yes,
I know
I
you
can
know Ruko
I
because
can say that I have the pleasure of enjoying that throughout my childhood because we have very big baobab trees in our area and they would fall down and you just start eating them right from the tree.
yeah, true. Yeah, now that shows baobab is beneficial, still. And then by them holding the soil is very beneficial. Now, God is good because if imagine baobab could be able to become if it was woody, will it be woody? People would have brought them down and made so much timber out of it.
Sure.
But because human beings feel like they don't have any use, that's why they've just left it there. They've not touched it because it has no use to human beings. Just one like any other plant that grows in the desert. Now, of late, they realize that it has demand. There demands because of probably the fibers of the baobab trees has a lot of uses out of the country, so they started exporting it. And guess what? The CS decided to ban the exportation of baobab trees because they know the importance of baobab to the ecosystem. We cannot just start waking up one morning just because there's a demand in another country, we start cutting down the baobab. You can imagine how many years this baobab have grown. They take thousands and thousands. Some of them take thousands of years to grow. Some of them, like the ones we have in Kwambani, been there for hundreds of years. So you cannot just wake up one day and just uproot something that was taken several years to grow and just to export it. That is not right. You are directly affecting the ecosystem. And by affecting the ecosystem, you are affecting the soil directly.
Then this means that we have to change some habits, maybe things that were done a long time ago in order to conserve the environment. Or do we still have to stick to the traditional way? Because I feel like things are changing. And even if we need to conserve our soil, we need to change some of these things that we were used of doing. If maybe the baobab trees occupies a lot of space, yes, it is good for the environment. But again, because if they are asking to uproot them, they must have a reason behind it. So do you think we still have to do the traditional things the traditional way, or do we just need to change? Yes, there is technology, but again, we need to change a little bit. I believe change is as good as a rest.
Yeah, I mean, people traditionally, did you see your forefathers affecting the baobab trees? because they knew they were important to the land. So they left it that way. But the only thing we need to change is our greed. Just because you've had probably a country, maybe in the United States or China requires baobab trees, that's why people start rushing and cutting them. You see, our mindset, if we change that mindset, if we stop being greedy, then our environment will flourish because of greed, the need to make money fast. That's what is causing all this. So people are rushing to make money fast out of what their land can be able to provide. But if we go back, like you're saying, to the traditional ways of life, I mean, we've lived in resistance with baobab trees for years on end. We came, we found the baobab trees. I'm sure where you grew up, the baobab trees are still there. Your children and your children will find that the baobab trees, they will still be there. So why on earth should one person, just because he's had that you can fetch 50,000 shillings out of one baobab tree, you just rush and sell it, and you don't look at the several years that plant and the generation, even the aesthetic purpose of that baobab tree, the connection, the family connection it has. People, probably you want people to come and visit you in your home. They'll tell you, once you reach that corner, you'll see a baobab tree there. You go 1 kilometer after that baobab as a landmark. I mean, just as an example. So we don't need to be driven so much by new emerging demands, yeah, just because they've realized that baobab is needed for this, probably because of the fiber in it or because of this in it. That is why we need to, before we rush into something, we need to understand the repercussion it might have to the final soil or to the environment.
But I mean, if it's giving you, let's say 50,000, and you can use that money to buy new land and maybe use it for something else, and the baobab tree has been there, hasn't it served its purpose? So it needs to go. I mean, why keep it if I can get 50,000 out of it and I need the money? So yes, it has been there, it is helping, but again, why do I need to keep it? I have overeaten the mabuyu, and I feel like I need the money right now. Why not cut it down, buy a new land, plant others, and my children will get to enjoy the one that I have planted, but I have made money from the one that I had.
So imagine 2 or 3 baobabs can hold, let's say, the roots can spread around, the root network system can spread around almost an acre of land. If you have 2 or 3 baobab trees, and the root network are holding the soil into place, meaning that soil is in place. And no, baobab also has water retention capability, yeah, which means that it keeps your soil healthy. Your soil is actually in good shape. So for you killing that, you'll just be destroying the biodiversity. Imagine how many animals or how many insects and other plants or other animals that depend on that baobab for growth, for shade, for even habitat. So you see, if you destroy that because of 50,000, you've destroyed the whole ecosystem. You've altered the biodiversity. Yeah, that grid of that 50,000 in Kenya right now, 50,000 is very small. Can't even buy land. So for you to destroy that, you affected the whole ecosystem, including the soil.
Wow. Now, I hear you, but I'm still convinced that if I need the money, because sometimes it can grow and stay there, but it will just give maybe the bulbs that come out, maybe 5, and it's huge, it's occupying space. And I need the space because assuming I have many children, I need the space, I need the money. So yes, I hear you, but I'm a little bit convinced that in as much as I want to take care of it, I still need the money to do something else. And maybe, what if I just cut 1 and remain with 2, or just I remain with 1? Maybe I have 2. I cut 1, I remain with 1. Yes, I'm taking care of it, but I need the money, and I feel like sometimes it takes too much to just give the mabuyu, it takes a little bit of more time as compared to other plants and trees.
I mean, if you do that's why normally things like NEMA do something called environmental impact assessment. What is the impact will have that by felling that one baobab, what impact will it have to the ecosystem? Yeah, you do that. You look at your land to see what other vegetable can you be able to plant trees to hold your soil. What other measures are you going to take? Yeah, you need that 50,000, but what other measures are you going to take? What other measures are you going to take to avert or to replace the function that Baobab was doing to the ecosystem? So you also, if you can be able to do that, then you just go on and follow your Baobab, because I've seen some of these Baobabs have really helped soils that have prevented even, what do you call it, even when the soil comes falling, what do you call that?
Landslides or mudslides.
Yeah, landslide. Yeah, because some of these regions, some of these, especially the Ukambani regions, are prone to flash floods.
Yes.
And you know what flash floods can be. And to prevent flash floods and the bad floods that the resultants of bad floods, it's the work of the Baobab to actually to make sure the flood is put in check. Otherwise, the soil there will just cause a lot of landslide. So you're seeing what I'm trying, God and the environment has a way of keeping a check to itself. Otherwise, if you leave your soil just unchecked, you will see the resultants.
Wow. And Dr. just back to the issue of soil mapping, because even the issue of baobab we're just discussing is part of the issue with soil and biodiversity of the soil. But again, you being an expert and having traveled and seen different types of soil in different countries, what do you think, what proposals are the best ones for taking care of our soil? Because we celebrate Soil Day, but again, people do not understand the essence of soil or the importance of soil. So, what are some of the proposals? Do we turn to pure manure, just like using the the product from chicken, to use them as fertilizer? What do we need to do, and what are we doing currently? What are we doing currently that we should have started doing a long time ago, and what should we stop doing?
First of all, that's a very, very good concern you just raised there, because it is time we start having this conversation in the whole world and in Kenya, because agriculture is actually 67% of our GDP, and that's quite high, because meaning that for every population of this country, about 3/4 of our population, slightly more than 3/4 of our population, depends directly on agriculture, agricultural income. So for that, we need to understand how the importance of soil. Now, first thing first, we need to check how much agriculture we are doing. Too much agriculture is, we've seen over the years, too much agriculture is causing depletion of our soil nutrients. We are constantly depleting our soil. Very few places, very few places have can be able to people can be able to plant without fertilizers. But you also seen that there's increased use of fertilizers across the country, meaning that we can no longer support agriculture without fertilizer, which is very worrying, because we need to use the soil as it is naturally. And likewise, we also need to let our soil heal. Also practice other conventional methods of agriculture like crop rotation, intercropping, using of nitrogen fixing legumes to heal the soil, leaving the soil to, crop rotation that enables soil heal. Probably even sometimes give it a couple of months, even years, let the soil just naturally heal. there's too much of usage. Now, year in, year out, you practice the same agricultural activity, you practice the same use of chemicals, fertilizers, pesticides, which shocks the soil. At the end of the day, it's the soil that is suffering. It's not, and you'll be able not to get any productive use from that soil. So the thing is, we need to tone down on the use of chemicals. Let us now see if we can be able to use traditional methods like use of manure, good manure, use other means like natural methods like vermiculture, where we use the vermipost from worms. You see, we try to embrace the natural mechanism of soil improvement and the using of less toxic chemicals in our crop cultivations.
And Dr. You had posed a question, and we had posed a question, what is precision farming? And I can see that on our comment section, we have an answer here. And this is from Fiona Luta, who's saying, precision farming is the science of improving crop yields and assisting management decisions using high technology sensor and analysis tools. But again, she has a question, Dr. What does this day mean to farmers? And this is the World Soil Day. What does it really mean to farmers?
It basically means that soil is the natural resource that we need to take more emphasis and take care of, because it is the basis of which all our agricultural activities is. All like 90% of our agriculture is based on the soil. If we do not take care of the soil, we are going not to be getting any production from the soil. So the more we put emphasis and knowledge in taking care of the soil, the more we are going to learn more about our production. So it's good that we understand what soil is.
Now, Dr. before you give us your parting shot, today is World Soil Day. So you, as a scientist, you as a proponent for healthy soil, what are you going to be doing today? What are some of the activities you're going to be doing in accordance or in line with soil health and the protection of our environment?
Yeah, probably part of our research we've been doing is soil-free farming system. I've been working on hydroponics and aquaponics, which is totally soil-free, as an alternative to what if, what if we do not have soil, or what if we deplete all the nutrients in the soil? How can we be able to survive? So we need to ensure that soil heals and
sorry, Doctor,
I'll be able.
Yes.
Oh, you've lost me. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you loud and clear.
I'm saying that I'll be visiting some farmer today who's doing purpose, and we're looking at his soil. Most people, especially here in Kitengela, are taking advantage of the very high nutrients or fertility of our soil here, because some of them don't even use fertilizers to grow some of their crops. So today I'll be looking at that, and then probably I'll let you know how things go tomorrow.
Please let me know. I will be here waiting for that answer. I am going, on my end, I'm going to be preparing facts and reading the notes that you have given me about soil mapping, because I have learned quite a lot. So just before I finish, we have a fun fact here, that there are more living organisms in 1 tablespoonful of soil than there are people on Earth. So Dr. please give us your parting shot with that fun fact in mind.
It's like saying, there are more bacteria in your tongue than human beings in a lifetime. Do you know that?
Sorry, what?
There are more bacteria and other microorganisms in your tongue than human beings have lived in a lifetime.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. That is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Wow,
Just like oil. they will say that teaspoon of soil is carrying like even it's uncountable number of human beings. So that's how also bacteria is. So there are different types of bacteria across the spectrum. Yes.
Wow. Then that marks the end of our show this morning. Thank you so much, Dr. Mwakio, for joining me this morning. As I said before, I never walk alone. And I was joined by none other than Dr. Robert Mwakio. And see you tomorrow, same time, same place, as we celebrate a Soil Day today. Have a happy day. Have a happy World Soil Day. Make sure you take care of your environment and follow us on all our social media platforms. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Media.
Sema mwisho.
Unatazama Farmers Media.
Mwisho mzee.
Unatazama Media.
Thank you so much, Sheila, for making time to have this interview. Probably
Thank
for
you.
the benefits of our audience, we'll ask you to introduce yourself. Tell us
Okay.
about yourself.
All right. So I am Dr. Sheila Chugboju. I am the Executive Director of the Alliance for Science. Yes. We are a science communication initiative. We're global and we promote agricultural biotechnologies, but increasingly we're talking about climate change, food and nutritional security, global health, and misinformation to increase trust in science.
So you're here in Kenya. Probably you've not mentioned where you're from exactly, but from your name, you sound you're from Nigeria.
I am Nigerian. I am from Cross River State, which is in the southeast of Nigeria, a very lush, green, fertile area. I was born there and lived there till I was like 10 years old before I went to the UK.
Nice. So recently the world marked World Food Day and you as Alliance for Science. What is your take on our food systems currently in Africa? Because we are coming from various shocks. We had the COVID pandemic, there's the effects of climate change and the war in Ukraine. What is your thought on our food systems, and probably as Alliance for Science, what message do you have for people?
Well, what our recent shocks have shown us is that we lack the resilience which we could and should have. And it's really part of the reason why we at Alliance for Science are starting a campaign called From Relief to Resilience. We're looking at how do we build resilience against the shocks. So we've had the shock of the pandemic, and now we have the shock of the war in Ukraine. And that comes on the backdrop of the constant and consistent and increasing shocks of climate change. So what these shocks have taught us is that our ability to bounce back, which is the definition of resilience, is not there in many instances. And when we celebrate the World Food Prize, we're celebrating the legacy of a great man, Norman Borlaug, who started us off on an inspirational journey of believing in the green revolution and showed us how technologies and innovations around food could help us feed the world. So we were at that time on the cusp of believing that we were able to end hunger, that really we didn't now need to be afraid of any child going to bed hungry. And in a sense, there was a moment when we had reached there, in that world food supplies, like in food stocks, are enough to feed every child in the planet. What generally stops us is, of course, that they're not evenly distributed. Some countries have more and there's food waste, and some countries don't. So we have political systems which stop us from distributing our food equitably. So that's why some countries consistently are asking for food relief. Usually they're in the global south and they're asking for food relief from the global north. So, but we were hopeful because the food systems seemed to be working. Globalization seemed to be working. We had systems that seemed to be just in time. You know, you didn't need to grow your own food because you could get it from one country, you could get your inputs from another, and somehow you could maximize and optimize, you know, our food supplies. But what COVID taught us is that that actually isn't as true as we would like it to be. It's a romantic view of globalization. Globalization has to be founded on equity. But we saw that even with the vaccine inequities, countries that had hoarded and countries that didn't, even when they were able to pay, and they were largely in Africa, weren't able to get access to vaccines. So there were inequities that were embedded in systems. And it's the same with the food systems. There are inequities embedded in the system. And what we've seen with the war in Ukraine is countries that were dependent on inputs of fertilizers and other inputs from Ukraine were unable to get them because of the war, and suddenly realized how fragile our food systems are. And so generally across Africa, many countries are suffering from lower productivity. Here in Kenya, that is definitely true. Other countries in West Africa are suffering, actually gone into famine. So this is where food relief, food aid has come in. So how do you shift the dial towards resilience? You shift it with innovations in biotechnology, and we at Alliance for Science talk a lot about GMOs and gene-edited crops. We're very positively promoting these as an arsenal in our tool towards resilience, something that shifts the dial. It helps tackle things like drought. So you have drought-tolerant maize, you have disease tolerant plants, and in Nigeria, where the cowpea, which is a staple, the BT cowpea has been commercialized, you're seeing greater yields, greater stocks, and farmers are spending less in spraying their field against these pests. And so there are many benefits, not just that it's better for the environment because they're not spraying. It's cheaper for the farmer because they don't have to buy so much pesticides. And generally it's a hardier crop. So we promote that because those are the things that shift you towards resilience. So that's the long answer. The short answer is our optimism is now tempered with it's tempered with caution. It's tempered with realism. We've realized that when we haven't gone as far as we need to go, but the good news is the technologies and the innovations are cheaper and more accessible to African countries. So in the very near future, we can build up our stocks and look at our food systems and do better in innovating around the systems and the technologies that go into them.
Very interesting. That was quite a long answer.
See, this is why you have to stop me.
No, everything you're saying is important. But then, as Alliance for Science, by just the name, it's just science. When you talk about biotechnology and science, where does science meet agriculture? From there, like, just tell us a bit about science and agriculture and the various technologies, because right now the talk here in Kenya is about GMOs. When people hear GMOs, they just see it's something that has been done in the lab. Probably chemicals have been mixed together, and not many people have knowledge about gene modification. What exactly? So probably you can just try and explain where does science meet agriculture, and then talk about the information, because people think GMOs are not safe, they are not good for human consumption.
Okay, so let's talk about where the science meet agriculture. First of all, from when we began to realize, or from when we became as humanity began to settle down and grow our own food, science was already there. We may not have called it science, we may not have understood it, but we understood that when you plant a seed in the ground, in a certain place, in a certain way, you nurture it, you would get a harvest. When we began to grow fields, crops of wheat, so when you read the Bible and you look at agricultural texts, you understand that they understood about pests, and they understood about storage, and they understood about irrigation, all of those things. So science, what is science? Science is understanding how the elements work, and somehow developing a system where you control for certain elements so that you can replicate something that you want. So science has always, well, first of all, science is in everything, so of course it's in agriculture. Modern agricultural techniques are now using genetic technologies, and modern being in the last 30, 40 years or so, and so we're using genetic technologies because we understand them more. So we talk a lot about gene editing and we talk a lot about GMOs. It's not such a new technology per se. I did my PhD in this more than 25 years ago, and at that time we were studying what I did my postdoc in. We studied baculovirus expression systems, which was a way of developing biological pesticides using genetic modification. But it was based on an indigenous knowledge system. So it was based on the fact that farmers in Ghana over 100 years before had known that yes, they get these pests that affect their crop, but every now and again there's something that happens to the pest. They get a disease and they die. So then they realized that there must be something that kills this. They didn't know then it was a virus, but they would take these caterpillars and they would homogenize them and they would store them. And the next year when they grew their crop, they would then sprinkle some of the liquid on their crop, and they realized it was a natural biological pesticide. They did this for hundreds of years. And by the time scientists now came to investigate what is it in this system, they realized, oh, it's a virus. It's a virus that attacks, it's very targeted, it doesn't affect any other plant or animal species, it doesn't affect humans. And so that's the basis upon the baculovirus expression system. And then we, as scientists, began then to look at the system, began to say, how do you replicate it? How do you then accelerate the rate of kill of the virus so that it can be much more targeted and faster and can be a commercial product? And the reason for this is so that you can reduce chemical pesticides. So my point is, we have always known about modifications. We've always known about traditional plant breeding is based on genetic modification. It's just that we couldn't see the genes, we couldn't manipulate them as well. So that has always been there. So now that we have systems that allow us to see our genes, we have gene editing and we have GMOs. Now GMOs is where you bring some kind of, you bring genetic material from outside of the species to use. Gene editing is when you don't go out, bring foreign material, you use whatever is already in the genome. So the way it was described by a communicator in Nigeria is GMOs are marriage outside of the family. Gene editing is marriage inside of the family. Well, maybe the wider family, extended family. But you know what I mean. So you're using what is already there, or you're bringing something different. But it's more or less the same methodologies. But it's also how bacteria how was this technology discovered? It was discovered because scientists realized that bacteria do this anyway. So natural bacterial systems edit their genes. When they're attacked, they edit so that they're more resilient. So this is being replicated in the lab using a natural system. So it's not unnatural in that it was not a system that was foisted upon nature. It is a system in nature that is being replicated using scientific tools.
Yeah, from that explanation, if I wanted to ask about the difference between gene editing and gene modification, but which one would you propose is the best? And because from the way you've said it, gene modification is bringing another foreign substance to make something else. Which one is the best, and which way should we go, like countries?
Well, I don't think one is better than the other. I have no problem with GMOs and I have no problem with gene editing. Gene editing is a newer technology. And is there a problem? So gene editing is a newer technology than GMOs. But in some sense, you should be more confident about GMOs because it's more tested. We have been eating genetically modified foods for decades, for 30 years or more, and they have been, so we can prove that they're safe because we've been eating them, we've been growing them, and they've been safe. So they're well tested. Gene editing is a newer aspect of this. So yes, it has more public acceptability because of the word foreign. People are like, oh, foreign genes, you know. But it is a newer technology. And it's just as safe. It is just perhaps just easier for the public to understand. It depends on what traits you are looking for. Sometimes genetic modification may be the better way to go to get what you want, because you may not be able to find it all within one genome. So it depends on what you're trying to achieve with the plant.
But if you ask me, I'd say gene editing is the best, because probably you're using the same kind of thing, doesn't taste, the tastes of food don't change, and probably, because when I look at GMOs, if you look at, let's say, there's a time I went to the showground this year and they are planting red spinach. So I was like, this changes everything, like, this is wrong.
Well, you say that, but even traditional crossbreeding brings in different species, you know, so it's not as if, that is how we've created new plants, isn't it? You know, we have we've crossbred with animals, so we're not always sticking within our narrow confines. It's just that it takes us longer because we're not so precise. So nature already does that. Nature already allows. What is a donkey? You know? Nature already allows levels of this. So it is, I don't know whether it's our idea of foreignness or maybe it's our lack of trust of scientists. Or our lack of understanding of the motives and intentions of scientists, or just the fact that food is sacred, you know. Food is biblical, the bread of life, you know, all of that. So we are it's very easy for us to take injections or medicines, and we don't ask, was this modified? You just take them, you don't know you've taken them. But now, if you use the same technology with your food, now you really want to know. And I'm not saying it's wrong, and I'm not, because I feel that food and ritual and culture are part of what we as human beings use to express our humanity. And so we are cautious about it. It's part of our being, our identity. So I think we need to understand that better as we try to communicate. We need to understand the place of the food, the sacredness of the food, and engage with our public to help the public feel safe. No technology should come on the market when people don't feel safe. You need to feel safe about it. So we don't just work in communicating about the science. We work with the regulatory bodies. So we work with the national biosafety agencies, and we look at the regulatory policy, because we also want to make sure that before this comes to the market, we can say, not only do we believe it's safe, but you have a governance system and a body that is going to make sure that if anything goes wrong, that people will be held responsible, and that they're constantly monitoring its safety, as they do with other foods. You have food standard agencies all over the world. So, yeah, that's the short answer.
Yeah, talking about information, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. People are worried. The first I mentioned about how healthy is GMOs, because Kenya lifted the ban on GMOs, and right now people are asking so many questions. Some are saying the seeds, once you plant the seeds, you cannot regrow them. There's the issue of patents. People don't know where the seeds will be coming from, who will be bringing them. Probably give us more information for the benefits of our farmers who are watching.
Yes, the issue of patents is a touchy and a tricky one. It is and it's not just with GMOs on foods, it's in everything. It's the fight between corporations and consumers generally. But because this has historically been the place where this technology has had contentions, the new gene-edited crops and foods that are coming on the market the patents have been carefully negotiated, and they've been negotiated in such a way that the license is not held by corporations, and that at the end of the day, when the seeds come onto the market, there's not a premium put on it for the farmer. So they're coming at low cost or no cost. So that relationship between the consumer and the corporation, that has been negotiated, and the issues around patents should not be the same. And it was the same with vaccines. It was the same with drugs, HIV drugs. Remember, Africa couldn't get access to them because of patents, and because the corporations wanted very high, they put a very high price so that the global south did not have access to medicine. And there was a long period of negotiations until in the end it became accessible. And so that's what happens between industry and consumers. There has to be a period of negotiation, and so we are in a better place than we were 25 years ago when these technologies came onto the market. Now, on the issue of can you use the seeds again? Yes, you can use some of the seeds again, but some you can't use, not because they're GMOs, but because that's the nature of hybridization. So even non-GMO hybrid seeds, you tend to buy them every year, because that's how you keep the traits robust. And farmers actually understand this. They do buy a certain number of seeds. There's some which you can use again. So it's not a blanket yes or no. So people are simplifying the arguments, and I think the people who simplify it to consumers, not to farmers. Farmers understand that there's some seeds I'm willing to buy. Oh, do you have this? Yours is growing well. Can I buy that one? How much is? They'll buy it, because they understand that there are better varieties that come across every year. So they don't have a problem with that. So that's on that. What was the third question about? Is it safe? I think we need
Probably when you ask about the safety, also talk about the gene editing, for example. Do you add other components apart from probably when you're doing the gene editing? What makes that crop to be resilient to harsh climatic conditions, resilient to pests and diseases? Like, expound on that. Is it safe, first of all? Can it be eaten?
Yes, first of all, it is safe. And so what you're doing is, like, if you're looking at BT maize, so BT maize, there's a gene which is, the gene is, what is the real name for it? It's CRY1AB. That's the gene that is expressed by BT by the Bt, and Bt Bacillus thuringiensis. So this is a bacteria. So it has this gene, and this gene confers a resistance to drought to it. You know, this is the part of it which is the drought resistance. So what you do is you take out that gene and you culture it in a Petri dish, and then you put it back into the plant, and then the plant expresses a protein which gives it it's an endotoxin which gives it a natural resilience to drought. So it is expressing a protein now, which is a natural expression of a bacterial system. So the bacteria causes it to do this. So it is safe in that it's not expressing chemicals, it's not expressing poisons, it's expressing something that naturally occurs in nature that gives the plant a resistance to drought or other conditions. So we are using a natural system and implanting it within a particular crop. So this wouldn't naturally happen in maize, but it happens in other places in nature, and so we simply put that gene in there. So it is safe because first of all, it's safe because it's been tested. So this is Kenya is now looking at the removal of the ban, but these foods have been eaten for over 30 years in other countries. So it's new here, but it's not new around the world. So this is not, it's not a laboratory, it's not a testing ground. It is just new for Kenya. Yeah.
Very interesting. How long do you scientists take to do all this research? Because the way you've explained it, I don't know, you take a gene. How long do you take to do
You know, it's a lot faster than it was in my day. You know, it's like with mobile phones or anything else. When we first started doing it, it was a completely different technology. It was difficult, it was expensive, it was long, you know, and so then it was a niche thing. That's why the first sort of crops that came on were for very commercial crops, and they were for Western markets where they could see the return on investment. They were not for things like drought tolerance or insect tolerance, because there's no return on investment in helping poor African farmers. Industry was not interested in investing in that research. But because the reagents have become cheaper, the machines have become cheaper, the whole thing is faster. So what would take me 2 months to do in the lab, you can now do in a day. The machines are faster, everything is more precise, but also we have mapped the genome. So when I was doing it in the end of the last century, so it was 1998 to 2000, we had not yet mapped it. So we didn't have a code. We knew that the genes were there, so we didn't know what the sequences were. So we were it was a lot of guesswork. So it was slower for us. But now that you have a map, you can very much precisely say, oh, from here it's here to here. You can actually see, you can model it. We didn't have the computational science where you could model it and see how the whole genome looks like. I didn't know what a genome looked like when I was a postdoc in Oxford at that time, because we didn't have those modeling systems. But now an undergrad anywhere in Africa can look at it and make a decision. And I was in Nigeria, I was so excited to see our young women scientists looking at the work that they're doing on cassava and saying, oh, I've created this variety and I've done this. That's amazing. So it is much faster. It is a few weeks. The problem is not so much the science. The problem is the science is just the first step. You do the science in the lab. You then have to test it on a model system. You then have to go into commercial field trials. So you grow it on the field under natural conditions. You go through a season. You see how does it affect the environment, how does it affect biodiversity, etc. You get that certified. You get it ticked off. It said it's safe. You then can begin to take the product to market. That also then takes several years. So the whole process can, from when you know the science in the lab to when you get a product to market, as in a seed, can take you 5 to 10 years. It can be faster. I mean, the thing about it is, like with vaccines, when we had the COVID pandemic, we said, oh, it takes 15 years to make a vaccine, can't be faster. 2 years, we got a vaccine. So where there's a will, there's a way. If African farmers and African countries make a demand for, I need a seed that is resistant to fall armyworm because it's devastating our crop. We need it like next year. And there's investment put into the science. I bet you we can get it out faster. That's some of the things that we're advocating for the end user, the farmers, the consumer to make a demand. What we want are tastier food. We want tastier ugali. You know, we want food that doesn't go bad. And then the government hopefully will listen, invest in our scientists doing the work for that.
Very interesting, because even when, as you're talking, like, how many scientists do we have probably in Africa? Like, if you tell someone, I want you to study science, me, if I used to fail terribly in science, because those things, like, how many people study science, and why science?
Yeah, it is still a low percentage, and it's not just Africa, it's everywhere in the world. So you're having percentages of, even in the UK, you can have maybe 6% by the time you get to undergraduate to postgraduate level, in terms of the everything that everybody studies there. Science can be 6%, and that's high. You know, it can be 1 to 2% in some countries, because it's not seen as cool.
Probably people don't have the information on the importance of science.
Well, yes, we're trying to do more to promote that, and also what kind of career will you have? Now, I became a scientist because my mother said, and I was good in arts and science at the same time, and my headmistress had wanted me to do geography, history, and English for my A-levels, because she said, well, you should go and study history or something, and I loved history. So I went to tell my mum, and my mum said, no, you're going to be a scientist, you're going to study science. And I said, why? And she said, because you'll always have a job. You will always have a job as a scientist, because science, first of all, science teaches you to be analytical, to be rational, and employers trust a scientific training across the board, much more than if you study English or anything like that. You're less likely to get the breadth of career choices as you do as a scientist. And so she was absolutely right. If you say you have a degree in science, honestly, people just think, well, she must be clever, you know. That's it. You know, they don't even care what science it is. Yeah. And that's the thing. So your career options, especially as a woman, are much stronger when you study science. So we want to begin to promote that more and more across the continent, because we need more scientists, because we need our scientists to ask the questions and answer them on our continent. Until we have a good number, because at the end of the day, you know, you'll get, if 50 people study science, maybe 20 of them will remain scientists for the first 5 years, and maybe you'll get like 10 at the end of that. But that's still a good number. So we want to promote science more, and I'll be doing more to promote not just a career in science. So as the Alliance for Science, we're going to be supporting actually a Kenyan, one of our Kenyan fellows, who has been working very hard here in Kenya to promote biotech. So he has a project called SciFun. So he does like demonstration biotech labs in primary school, secondary school, tertiary. So he's done this for like 2 years. And so he's gone to the government to say, listen, you can actually study biotechnology from primary school. It's fun, the experiments are fun. You can actually do a lot of very simple genetic experiments, and kids will love it. So we want to promote that in Kenya particularly, and begin to put a face to what does a career in biotech look like. Who could you be if you did this? And begin to encourage parents to invest in their children becoming scientists, because your return on investment in terms of the jobs they'll get and how they'll take care of you in their old age is much better.
Very true, very well spoken. Can all crops be gene edited? Because right now we know there's only BT cotton, BT maize. Can all crops be modified so that we can actually ensure, like, as we look up to food security in the coming years?
Theoretically, yes. I mean, the choices of which ones is about which are commercially of strategic importance. So that's the reason why it's cotton, because of the industry, cotton, maize, so staples. So theoretically, it's a technology which can be used not just in food, it's used in conservation, it's just a technology. Gene editing can be used in many, many things. So yes, the short answer is yes.
Very interesting. I had a conversation with Kyle Poorman, the director of
wow.
Dialogues, and I asked him his take on GMOs, and he was saying they're only short term. Like, do you think that we can ever have a lasting solution to end hunger?
Because ending hunger is not just a scientific problem. Ending hunger is a social, economic, cultural, political, ideological problem. So we actually have all the tools to end hunger today. Like, if we all distributed all the food we have equally, we would end hunger. You know what I mean? We have social solutions to this. If we said that the top 1% of the world should give their money and we buy food for the lowest, we could end hunger today. So it's not just science. Science can allow us to grow more food and intensify farming and agriculture in Africa. We have to do that. Our yields are low. We don't use most of our land, and when we do use it, we don't use it well. So we have growing population, and we have just not done that. We don't have enough fertilizer, we don't have enough irrigation, so simple inputs we don't even have. So the answer is not only in the hands of scientists. Scientists is one pillar. So there's a pillar of science, there's a pillar of economy, there's a pillar of culture, and the roof is politics. Politics rules all. Our political system and our political leaders are the ones that make decisions that can either help us end hunger or keep us in a state of dependency. It is leadership. So we do our part, but at the end of the day, it's about political leadership.
Very interesting. This interview can never end. Like, questions keep coming up enough, but we need to end this.
Yes.
Probably, what is your message to everyone who is watching this interview as Alliance for Science? Tell us now, where will we get the food that we need in the coming years as we look at even the SDGs 2050? What are we looking at?
Well, I want us to believe in ourselves. I want us to believe that wherever there's a problem, there's a solution. If there's one thing that science has taught me, is that the solution is always within the problem. Look at gene editing. So gene editing comes out of the solution that bacteria has for the problem that it has of a virus infecting it. That's a solution that we took out of there. So all our answers are encoded. The answers are always within. Science is a way of discovering it, making it transparent, and applying it. So I want us, first of all, to have hope and to believe that if we go on a journey of discovery, we'll find the answer. So go on the journey of discovery. But secondly, begin to, in our minds, all of us that are from the Global South and support the Global South, in our minds begin to move away from a state of dependency. There is no need for us to remain here. As the Global South, the global majority, with the luscious land, the most valuable resources, with the largest populations, we have everything we need to solve all our problems of today and tomorrow. But we need to first of all believe in that and begin to say, how can I make sure that next year all the things I depended upon today that came from outside, I can find inside? What can I do? Let's begin to make that journey to becoming resilient. And I'm not saying self-sufficient, because we are one world system. We can never be self-sufficient. Climate change has taught us that we're all going to live together or die together on one overheated planet or not. We need to do this together. So I'm not talking about self-sufficiency. I'm talking about resilience. I'm saying, basically, can we feed ourselves? You need to be able to do that as a family, as an individual, as a family, as a country, as a region. Can we feed ourselves? Can we take care of our health care? Do we have basic infrastructure? Okay, that's done. How now can we rely on others to help us with other things. But let's build a backbone of resilience. We can do that. And so, and what can science contribute? And I'm just saying contribute. Science is not the answer to everything. It can contribute. Let's look for it and we'll find it.
Thank you so much, Sheila, for making time.
Thank
really
you.
Appreciate it. We've learned a lot. Actually, you've ended this interview very well.
One question that I know everybody is asking themselves.
Okay.
Have you ever tasted GMO yourself?
Of course. First of all, I live and grew up in the UK, so the majority of products that we eat have genetically modified ingredients. So we're not even thinking about it. So unless you are positively choosing organic, so the default is GMOs. If you don't want that, you now have to look for exclusively organic foods, which are actually a niche product. You're not going to be able to have 3 meals a day just on organic. That's not going to happen. And can you even afford it? That's not going to happen now, and it won't happen in the future either. So I have eaten it many times, and I do every day. I have no issues with it. But at the same time, I bet you all of you have also eaten it.
Without knowing.
Yeah, no, I don't know if it's not known, because I think the default is that if it's not labeled, because if it's not labeled that it's non-GMO, then you are eating GMO foods, and so it's not contributing to your ill health. It really isn't.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank
really
you.
Appreciate it.